So, second time recording this, guys. I didn't like the first one and I'm a bit OCD. So, Goldman Sachs to give Ecuador $500 million, the US-controlled Inter-American Development Bank, and $497 million after US previously threatened to withhold funds over Julian Assange's asylum earlier this year. Now, it's really weird that Ecuador would ask for a $1.1 billion in borrowed funds, get rejected, then all of a sudden they start silencing Julian Assange, and all of a sudden the funds get approved. It's, you know, we're not saying it might or might not have anything to do with that, but boy, that's a little bit conspicuous, isn't it? So you're probably wondering what's happening with Julian Assange. At the moment, he's still in the Ecuadorian embassy in what they've described as a broom closet of sorts. He still can't leave because the UK is still threatening to arrest him because he failed to turn up to court for trumped-up charges in Sweden. So obviously Sweden wanted him on trumped-up charges, which have been since dismissed. Because he wouldn't turn up to the UK courts in order to be extradited back to to Sweden, he fled to the embassy, which was probably the smartest thing he's ever done, which is saying a lot for Julian because he's actually quite intelligent. And then, because he refused to turn up to court, they're now saying they still will arrest him. Regardless of whether those charges in Sweden have or have not been dropped, which they have, and also they've turned around and they said they may or may not give him over to the US when they arrest him. Because, you know, can't turn around and say you are going to give him over or you're not going to give him over and then give him over later, right? Because that would just be bad PR. So, yeah, look, we know what they're going to do. As soon as Julian leaves the embassy, he is going to be arrested by the UK Police Department, handed over to the US in some sort of fashion. And if that doesn't happen, they're just simply going to have mass kidnappers basically go in and kidnap him out of the Ecuadorian embassy. The way this is all setting up, it's like the Ecuadorian embassy has been handed $1.1 billion to look the other way. It really does look like blackmail, which is what Miss Julian Assange has said. Now, wouldn't that be us commoners called blackmail, wouldn't it? Ecuador previously refused funds after it silenced Julian Assange. So, yeah. No internet, no phone, no visitors, and then hashtags. Now, you're probably wondering, what are these funds? So, the Ecuadorian has received $500 million from repo dealer with Goldman Sachs. So, Ecuadorian government said on Friday that it would receive a $500 million from repurchased agreement with Wall Street bank Goldman Sachs. The Caribbean, I might be mispronouncing, country seeks to plunge itself into deficit. The $500 million is due to a repo operation with Goldman Sachs because, you know, we're going to hand over one of our citizens, just doesn't sit well with the general public, in which bonds were used as collateral. Finance Minister Richard Mentes, might be mispronouncing, told reporters. The deal had a high of 3-month London interbank offer rate, Libra plus 4.25%, the Economy and Finance Minister said in a statement. The Inter-American Development Bank will lend Ecuador $2.37 million for social services and $250 million to help complete construction of a subway system in Quito, and the ministry said. Latin American Development Bank, CAF, meanwhile, will lend $150 to improve the OPEC members' power sector. Mentes said the Ecuador is seeking to improve its ties with US banks and multilateral lenders that deteriorated under the rule of former President Rafael Correa. Now, that said, I believe that was the actual Prime Minister who actually gave Julian Assange asylum, or okayed it. So it's interesting how the US banks and multilateral lenders deteriorated, or their ties deteriorated, under a rule of a former Prime Minister or President who gave Assange asylum. Oh boy, isn't that weird? President Leonardo Moreno, a former Korea Portugal who turned against him after his 2007 election, is seeking to revive Ecuador's economy, which has been hurt by lower oil prices and bad earthquake. And also the international system, or international banking system, putting pressure on you because you won't hand over Assange has absolutely nothing to do with it. You conspiracy theorist, you. Ecuador said on Friday it would borrow $1.1 billion from international lenders, including a $500 million in repo operations. The finance minister said in a statement that it would pay 4.25% over 3 months labour in repurchasing agreement with the US bank. Some are 3% points below the market rate for Ecuadorian debt. So they're getting a really good deal. Makes you wonder, what do they have to hand over to get that really good deal? And does his name start with Julian and ends with Assange? My theory, but anyway, moving along. The rest of the borrowing will come from 487 million loan from the Inter-American Development Bank to be paid at 3.28% over 25 years, and 150 million loan from the Development Bank of Latin America to be repaid at 4.28% over 12 years. The long-term loans will be used to finance the rebuilding of a metro or building of a metro line in Qatar and to strengthen the energy electricity sector, the minister said. So, yeah. So, obviously, and here is this here. yourperceptionreality.com. Goldman Sachs to give Ecuador $500 million and the US Inter-American Bank $497 million after US threatened to withhold funds over Julian Assange's asylum. You conspiracy theorist, you. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, what's my view? What's my takeaway on this? Do I think they are withholding funds because they want Julian Assange? Let me think about it. Yes. And yeah, I do think the CIA and the NSA and everybody wants to get their grimy little hands on Julian Assange. After all, the Iraq War, which he blew wide open, Vault 7, everything that he's been posting on social media regarding all these leaks and all these emails, and don't forget the 2016 presidential election. Holy shit! That in itself is probably enough to earn him a cell in Guantanamo Bay. He shouldn't be in there. He's a journalist, but they're still trying to find some reason to throw him there. And yeah, at the end of the day, this is where I have a problem with the deep state. Let's face it, it's not Trump who is actually going after Julian Assange. It's part of his cabinet who wants to go after Julian Assange, and it's the deep state. I'm sure those two people aren't linked in any way. But yeah, but look, at the end of the day, like I say, yeah, it's easy to find out who the deep state are in the US. You just simply find the ones that are gunning for Julian, and they're pretty much puppets or leaders of the deep state. And yeah, I do think this is what it is. It's a case of, we will give you this $1.1 billion that you desperately need if you let us take care of Julian Assange, quotes. And look, at the end of the day, I'm not even saying that Ecuador is willingly going to hand him over, but I'll be very surprised in the next few months if we don't see masked men going into Julian Assange's apartment or going into the Ecuadorian embassy and driving out with someone with a bag over his head that looks a lot like Julian Assange. So yeah, I would be expecting that to happen anytime soon. Look, obviously I'm against this. I think Julian is a hero for what he's done. He is a truth warrior. I have a lot of respect for the guy. And remember, guys, if I end up falling downstairs, I don't have any stairs in my house. If I end up getting shot twice in the back of the head, I'm not suicidal, and I don't have any medical conditions that will likely cause me to die anytime soon. Try and remember that if I suspiciously die. But yeah, like I say, look, at the end of the day, yeah, I think this is a bribe. I think this is $1.1 billion, and we get our grimy little hands on Julian Assange. And I don't know, I hope Trump will pardon him. That's all I can hope for. I really do, but I don't even know if that's enough to get him out of Guantanamo Bay. But I don't know, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Do you think Ecuador has been handed this $1.1 billion because they are obviously going to let Julian Assange be taken by the UK or the US or whoever it may be? Do you think he should be pardoned? Do you think that Trump will pardon Julian Assange? Do you think that this $1.1 billion that's been lent to Ecuador has absolutely nothing to do with Julian, and it's just coincidental that happens right after they disconnect his internet, phone, and visitors? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Now, do remember, guys, this video will not be on anybody's recommended. I'll be very surprised if it does. So please don't forget to post it on Facebook, Twitter, social media, Reddit, whatever you've got. Smoke signals. We do have to let people know what is actually going on about this. Mainstream media is not reporting on it. Surprise, surprise. So obviously it's up for us to go through and obviously get the word out there, so if anything does happen to Julian, we can link back to this and then hopefully do something to help him. But guys, yeah, apart from that, if this video has been helpful, please smack a like. If you're new to the channel, welcome and subscribe. Apart from that, guys, I'll see you in the next demonetized video from YouTube. Have a great night and enjoy.